Hey there, welcome to another episode of Franchise versus Franchise, where two franchises enter, one leaves victorious, and the other goes home to cry himself to sleep on his huge villa. If you catch the reference, that's from a movie called So I Married an Axe Murderer. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and go and watch it. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about franchise versus franchise. So we're going to be breaking down two different franchise opportunities, sharing the numbers with you, and you can be the judge who wins this battle. Before we do that, though, a little bit of introduction for you. My name is Jason Revere. I am the founder of Revolution Franchise Brokers. And what we do is we help people just like you, everyday people, leave their 9 to 5 jobs, find great franchise opportunities, and begin building wealth and living a lifestyle of a business owner. We don't even charge for our services. Heck, how nice are we, right? If you want to learn more about what we do, visit revfran.com. You can watch any of the other videos on our channel here. And if you like this video, make sure you click the like button. Tell the world that you like Revolution Franchise Brokers. And that keeps us motivated to keep on making content just like this. And go ahead and subscribe as well, so you'll get notified every time we create a new video. But back to the matter at hand here today, we're here to talk about franchise versus franchise. And the two franchises that we're going to be discussing today are Subway. Probably heard of it, right? Subway, they make foot-long subs, right? Or 6-inch subs, whichever size you choose. They make subs, and there's a whole bunch of them out there. We're going to be talking about that franchise versus a franchise you might not be as familiar with, a franchise called Footprints Floors. Footprints Floors franchise, obviously, what do? They provide flooring for, it's predominantly homeowners, so it's a B2C type concept. And so we're going to be breaking down the numbers on both of these, going through their initial investments, their potential revenues, profitability, what the lifestyle looks like for the owner, and a lot of other little things along the way that we're going to chime in with on our opinions. Keep in mind, these are opinions other than the hard data that's in their FDDs. These are opinions. But I think it's going to probably take a little bit of explaining to talk about what Footprints Floors is for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. And so it is obviously a flooring franchise. And it's not like a big box store. This isn't something where you've got a bunch of inventory that you got to sit on and you're trying to sell flooring to homeowners. It is a home-based business, and what you're doing is you're advertising that you're going to help them to get their flooring installed. You're going to help them pick it out. You're going to do all that stuff. You're going to connect the dots between the people who have the flooring and the homeowner, and then you're going to schedule and help facilitate the installation with the use of subcontractors. So you don't even have to have anybody on staff that actually installs this flooring. And that gives you a lot of flexibility in your business, and it keeps your overhead very, very low. Honestly, your biggest line item on your P&L, on your expenses, is probably going to be the marketing expenditure that you have to attract these homeowners to you. Day in the life, you're going to be doing a lot of in-home consultations if you are the owner operator and you're acting in that sales capacity, and just out in the community, meeting people, kissing babies, shaking hands, or kissing hands and shaking babies. Don't do that. But it really is a great franchise for those people who want to be out and about. They don't want to be stuck in an office all day, staring at a computer and going, filing TPS reports and going to all these meetings and all that stuff. They want to get out. They want to just experience the town, right? Experience what it's like to go and help homeowners solve a problem and find a solution to getting their flooring installed, which is not that easy to do, by the way. And so that's really going to be what you're going to be doing, and then making those relationships with those the vendors themselves, the people who sell the flooring, and then also different referral sources as well, and then also your subcontractors. Building those relationships and holding them accountable and making sure that everybody has that win-win-win mentality, right? The business, your business wins because you get paid to provide this service. The subcontractor wins because they get paid, and they didn't even have to go out and find the customer. They didn't have to advertise. They didn't have to do all the stuff that they don't like to do, right? They like to do the installations. They like the hands-on work. You like the marketing and the sales element of the business. You're two halves of the same coin, right? And then the homeowner wins because they get a white glove service. You're going to provide a wonderful experience for them. They're going to leave you a 5-star review, and everybody is going to be happy. But we got to figure out what's it cost to open up one of these versus Subway, right? Subway, it's a huge, huge brand. There's over 20,000 locations in the US alone. It's a big, big behemoth operation. Footprints Floors has 87. So, man, if this is, we're a gang fight here, 20,000 versus 87, it's gonna be an absolute massacre, right? But that's not what you don't care. You don't care if there's 20,000 or if there's two. If you're coming in to own this, you just care about what your business is going to look like. But again, Subway substantially larger, so it's already pulling out ahead here in our fight to the death. But 87, is that a lot? I think that is. That's at least proof of concept, right? I mean, you got 87 locations scattered around all over the country. They know it works. They know that they've got a good system in place. They don't show a lot of closures in their FDD, which means that the system is working. The business owners are happy. They're profitable, potentially, by the way. That's my disclaimer for you. If you check your FDD out, and there's going to be a disclaimer at the end of this video for anything I might say that might be inaccurate. But again, keep it as accurate as possible here. The 20,000 locations, though, and if you look at their the FDD of the Subway, they got a lot of closures year after year. A lot of litigation. Heck, the litigation section of the Subway franchise disclosure document, usually it's just like 3 or 4 little paragraphs of litigation, detailing each one of the people who sued the franchisor or that the franchisor has sued. They actually have a separate section that you have to go to. It's like Exhibit L or something. You got to go there and read all of their litigation. It's a lot of stuff going on there from a litigious standpoint. And again, this is not good nor bad. It just is. You can be the judge of that. There is obviously some litigation listed on the Footprints Floors. Any franchise system's been around for a while, and these guys have been around since 2013. So going on 12 years of offering franchises to people. You're going to run into some lawsuits along the way because there's somebody's going to do something they shouldn't have done, and then they're not going to do the mea culpa thing, and eventually you got to take it to court. They've got, I think, 2 listed, so nothing too scary to be looking at there. Any franchise system that's been around for any amount of time is going to have some lawsuits that they've got listed in their FDD. Neither here nor there for this discussion. Let's get to it. Let's break down the numbers. Here we go. All right, let's take a look at the investment level here. So you can see here on the screen, we're going to put it up here for you. In order to get your Subway open, we've got to have 2 things in play. We got to know what the franchise fee is for both Subway and for Footprints Floors, and then what the total initial investment breakdown looks like. When we say total initial investment, that means every dollar that they estimate you're going to spend to get your business up and running, and then have enough working capital to keep it solvent while you're building the business up. Okay, and they call that working capital. And so they've got to disclose both of those in item 7 of their franchise disclosure document. On the Subway side of things here, you can see on the little graph here, their franchise fee is really, really, really low by comparison to most franchises out there. It's only $15,000 franchise fee. So again, they're already, look at that. We got 2 rounds going to Subway right out of the gate here. They're much bigger, and their franchise fee is substantially lower, $15,000 versus $67,000 over on the Footprints Floors side of things. So it's a big delta there. We got about a $50,000 delta. Does Footprints Floors earn their franchise fee? You're going to have to be the judge here as we go along this. So, but that's not the only number that we got to consider in opening up this business, because $15,000 is not going to get you a Subway open. You've seen a Subway before. Did it look like it cost $15,000 to open? No. So if you look at their item 7 on their franchise disclosure document, they got a whole bunch of different numbers that you can look at based on size, etc. So I'm taking just somewhat of an average here. We're going to say it's about $400,000 to get a Subway open, give or take. Okay. You might come in ahead of that. You might come on in substantially higher than that. Depends on different market conditions, the lease, the build out, all that stuff that you got to take into consideration. But $400,000 is a pretty good estimate on getting one of these open. So over on the Footprints floor side of things, I mean, we had a huge franchise fee, right? My goodness, they were substantially larger than Subway. How much does it cost to get one open? Well, it's right around 114,000. Their average or their range in their FDD says 77,000 to 114. I always recommend if it's a service-based business, just assume it's the high end and be pleasantly surprised later when you cash flow quicker than anticipated. But again, if we're being responsible, let's just look at the high end, call it 114,000. So we got $114,000 initial investment for Footprints floors versus about $400,000 for Subway. So the clear winner of that round goes to Footprints floors. A heck of a lot more cost effective to get a Footprints floors open. You can open up almost 4 Footprints floors locations from the ground up in different areas of the country for the same investment that you put into your Subway. And in fact, actually, if you're going to do multiple territories, it's going to be substantially lower than that because you'll have shared resources amongst them. So you could probably get 8 to 9 for that initial investment. I digress. Let's talk about revenue. I'm going to go to the next slide here because who cares about how much it costs? How much am I going to make, right? So looking at Subway's, their revenue is a little bit harder to figure out. They don't disclose anything in their franchise disclosure document. And item 19 is where you will find financial performance representations for any franchise out there that wants to share their numbers. You don't have to. It's not a mandatory thing. So Subway chose not to. I have my feelings as to why they decided not to. And you know what? I'll share them. What the heck? Sometimes when a franchise doesn't share numbers in there, it can be a bit of a, if it's not a red flag, it's a yellow flag. It means they're not, it could mean that they're not super proud of them. They don't really want to share them because, you know, it's like, oh man, I don't want to tell you. So tread with caution. But if you do a quick Google search, there's a bunch of different resources out there, third parties that have broken down what their perceived, at least the revenue calculations look like for a franchise location. And again, they're coming in somewhere in that $400,000 to $490,000 range. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and go at the very tippy top end of their what you can find on the internet. So let's call it $490,000 for top line revenue. Okay, top line revenue, that means just money that comes in. People order sandwich, they hand you money. What's that total over a year? $490,000 is what we're going to use as our assumption for a Subway location. This is just a single location that you see in any strip mall in America. That's the average. So $490,000. What does Footprints Floors show? They actually do show quite a lot of data in their franchise disclosure document. They must be pretty proud of themselves, right? Or they just want to give people the most realistic picture of what it's like to operate one of these so they can disclose as much as they possibly can. On their franchise disclosure document, it's tough to put it in the numbers here because they do share a lot of data. So I'm just going to use the top 50%. What's the average of the top 50% of franchise locations, single location, single unit location franchises? It's just over $500,000. So slight edge goes to Footprints Floors versus Subway. You got about 10 grand or so more in potential average revenues going into a Footprints Floor. So, hey, nice job, Footprints Floors. But again, those numbers are irrelevant because you can't spend money or you can't keep money that you have to spend to keep your business operational. So that's where overhead comes into play. Again, we have to make some assumptions and do some digging through the internet and using our own kind of just assumptions of what it costs to operate a brick and mortar restaurant type business. And so the internet is saying it's about $180,000 or so. I'm giving them, again, the benefit of the doubt. Some locations are showing gross profit, which is all profit that that is there after your cost of goods sold. Okay, $170,000, give or take, to their gross profit. Again, we're making some assumptions here. After that, we still got to take care of overhead, things like rent and electricity and employees and insurance and all of the stuff, utilities, all the stuff that you got in there that wasn't, part of your cost of goods sold. So there could be potential, $100,000 of that kind of stuff. There could be. Again, we don't know because they don't disclose it. So, a disclaimer for you. All right, let's look at Footprints Floors, which does disclose their gross profit. Okay, and I'm not going to be making any assumptions on net profitability. We are going to talk it through, but I'm not going to give you a number. So that means, so let's take a look at Footprints Floors. Footprints Floors has an average gross profit of just over $200,000. Okay, so again, coming out ahead. We're actually a little bit further ahead on the gross profit than we were with the Subway. Why is that? Well, because our cost of goods sold is slightly better. It's not a ton better, but it's slightly better than it would be for operating a Subway. But the real story comes in when you start thinking about what net profit can be. I'm not going to tell you what it could be, but let's, again, what do we know? What is Footprints Floors? Well, it's a home-based franchise. So what is your rent? What is your lease on that location? Well, let's see. Survey says nothing, because it's based out of your home. You may want to have like a small little warehouse style thing, Class C real estate in a light industrial area if you choose to do so, but it's going to be substantially lower rent than that of the Subway, which has to be in a high traffic area. So we can make that assumption. Okay. What about employees? Well, do you have to have a ton of employees when you're using subcontractors? No, of course not. So out of that number, out of that gross profit number, what do we have to take out? You got fuel, you got vehicle expense, you got marketing, which is going to be your biggest one. And then we might have like a salesperson or something. But again, that salesperson is probably going to be in that cost of goods sold if you're paying them commission. But if you do pay them a salary, they're going to go into that as well. But we're playing with a lot more money. We're playing with $200+ thousand to make that happen. There's the potential for substantially higher rate of return on an investment that was basically 1/8 of the investment that would take to get a Subway open. Again, we're not making any declarations here. These are just facts. You can make the determination, really, who was the winner of this battle royale, this franchise versus franchise. Make sure you leave it in the comments, by the way, who you think actually won this battle. But first, who's a good operator of these types of businesses? Well, if you go to Subway, which you can walk into a Subway and you're probably going to see the owner there with a hairnet on. Just is what it is. They have to work in the business. There's just not enough profit to have a manager if they own just a single location. The profit becomes and the wealth creation comes by owning multiple units. But if you're owning multiple units, you were probably rich already, right? It's $400,000 to open up one. You open up 10, that's $4 million. So you were probably already doing pretty good in order to kind of distance yourself from the day-to-day operations. So anybody that owns like a single location, you're probably going to see them in there. You can take a look. You can meet them. You can scout them out. If it feels like you, if it looks like you might be a good fit for this. Footprints Floors, on the other hand, it's a little bit more difficult to figure out who owns these types of things, because they're not customer facing, right? There's not a brick and mortar. You can't walk in. Don't walk into their house, by the way. They're not going to like it much. So we have to, again, make some assumptions. What is this franchise? It's a sales and marketing driven franchise. So anybody that's good at marketing and kind of outgoing and can speak well, and I probably wouldn't make a good one, right? You're probably thinking anybody that's not a wallflower, somebody that's wanting to get out into the community, somebody that's wanting to be the face of their company. That's going to be somebody that could do pretty good. I've heard other franchises called as the mayor of the town. All right, just somebody that's got that charisma to them. That's probably going to make a really excellent owner. And then anybody at all that has some good sales experience, specifically in the home sales experience. So like if you're working for a roofing company now or another flooring company or an HVAC company, window company, and you're good at what you do, there's a good chance you're going to make a good owner of this type of a business. And it's not because that you're going to be the one that's exclusively going out meeting with homeowners, selling them your service. That's great to start, but if you're going to scale this business out and make it a really big mega business and do the millions of dollars, which they also have locations that are doing that in their FDD, you're going to have a staff to work for you. And usually people that come from that world, that come from a sales background, doesn't necessarily have to be home services, but just anybody that's got experience asking people for money. They usually make pretty good owners of these types of businesses. So if that's you, this could be a good path for you. There's plenty of them out there just like this. I'm not saying Footprints Floors is any better than any other one. Just some food for thought for you. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode of Franchise versus Franchise. If you'd like me to review any other franchises I mentioned before, put it in the comments below. Just give me two. Just write in X versus X, and we'll do a review on it and give you our feedback, help prepare the numbers so you can understand them a little bit better. A lot of these numbers are hard to find if you don't know where to look to find FDDs to get to the real nitty gritty stuff here, and all the financial details and things like that. And we will be happy to do that for you. Again, like and subscribe if you did like this video. If you didn't like this video, still like it anyway. What the heck? Don't be a jerk and click the thumbs down button. That's not cool. Nobody likes it. Anyway, that is it for us today. Be excellent.